Oh, hello, I'm FOGG. Welcome to my show. Thank you so much for coming along. We're doing some things here that we haven't done for 50 years, so pardon me if I seem a little tentative from time to time. One of the things we used to like to do was to make beautiful projectors. There were no commercially available projectors at the time, and my friend Rusty has made some modern beautiful projectors utilising some of the old projectors that we used to use in the old days. And we selected these projectors because they have a large gate. This is the hole where the slides go. The reason for the large gate is that you can put anything you like in there. You can put different kinds of wheels running at different speeds with patterns or colours or whatever you will. I'm not here to tell you actually what to do to make an old-fashioned light show or an analogue light show or a modern analogue light show. All I'm here to do is just to tell you the starting point for experimentation of your own. One of the other things that we do is use moire patterns, which we don't seem to have any here at the moment. Well, they'll be here any moment. In the meantime, we're going to talk about wet shows. Now, these wet shows were developed largely in America, and I was unaware of them until a band called the Roorda arrived in Australia in 1970 and started playing up in Byron Bay, utilising an overhead projector with clock glasses. We had used overhead projectors in our shows before then, of course, using moire patterns and other water drips and colours and also big slides. We borrowed them from the university because they were used to project in classes at university. This isn't an overhead projector, of course. This is a light box, but this demonstrates the sort of thing that we have in mind. And this is actually some of the patterns that we actually did use in the 70s. Moire patterns look fantastic on the wet show stage, on an overhead projector stage. You can move them to the music. Moire patterns mean you get two very similar patterns. This is a Fresnel lens optical pattern, and then you get its negative, and you can move one around on top of the other, and you get these all sorts of beautiful and interesting patterns emerge. Right? And you can go further, put another pattern entirely on and see what happens. All sorts of interesting things happen when you mix different kinds of images on the overhead projector stage. Personally, I like a circular screen. You could try putting this, this is just cut out of cardboard. You could try putting one of these in front of your television set at home, and it'd be very interesting with the effect. Try it and see what you think. And you can then do your patterns on the circular screen. So, but we're going to be talking about wet shows. We're not going to be going through the be-all and end-all of wet shows. We actually made a number of wet show films in the 60s, which we found, when they were done properly, a wet show film will go with any music, because the combination of sight and sound is something that happens inside your brain. So while a lot of people prefer to actually do the wet show to the music directly, we found that most of the time, when you got the right wet show film, it would work with any music, and you could then use projectors to show it. But the beauty of making the wet show in the first place is, I think, is that, and making it by hand, is it's something that computers cannot do. It has to be done by hand, and it has to be done with clock glasses. Here they are here. This is for a larger clock, and this is for a smaller clock. Why two sizes? Because when you put one inside the other, you get a space between them, the meniscus, into which go the liquids, which you then splodge with your thumbs. So we will actually make a very small, simple wet show here. Part of the wet show equipment is water and food dyes that mix with water, like this one here, and paraffin, and dyes from candle colouring dyes, which mix with the paraffin oil. And as you know, water and oil do not mix. We've also got some rubbing alcohol here, and we'll show you that later. Right, what was the first colour we used?
Red.
Red. Thank you, Rusty. So, eyedroppers. We're better than pouring it in. Use an eyedropper. Then you've got a bit more control. And you just put a few drops here and there. On an overhead projector, of course, these would be projected on the wall, but you actually look what you're doing on the stage. This is called the stage, to work out what you're doing. We're getting a little bit of extra water added from the rain, but that can actually add to the effect. Sometimes at night, insects and moths attracted by the light will come into the light show. Whatever happens is part of the show. What else do we do now? We showed what the small glass would do just with a bit of colour, a bit of water dye. Let's see what happens. Ah, look at that. You get a splodgy red blob amoeba looking pattern which runs around inside the circle. Okay, well, that could be more interesting. There's a lot of white there. We could either make the cardboard circle smaller, or you could fill it out by adding something else. What did we add then, do you think? Maybe some paraffin? Did you nod for that, Rusty? Thank you. We'll add some paraffin out of a squeeze bottle. Then you've got more control. See, that looks interesting already. Look, when you run it around like that. Okay, so we've added the paraffin. It does not mix with the water. Oh, and then you get these strange, what we call splodging. But it's still very much a white sort of a show, isn't it? We could fill it out a bit more than that, couldn't we? So what do we add then, do you think, Rusty?
Water.
Water. Okay. We'll just slip some water between the glasses like that. Oh, look at that. You can see the colour running into the water. But the paraffin is still not mixing, and it forms these little blobs within the water. But you've got a much larger pattern there. And when you lift it directly up and down, let's say you were doing that to a band, you could be doing this, and that'd look fantastic, blown up on the stage with your overhead projector. But it's still very white around the edges. What will we do next? Add a bit of
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Still between the glass, the yellow, with another little dropper. Okay, and we just lift this inner glass up, squirt it around. Whoa, okay. Put the cap back on the bottle. Gloves. I forgot to tell you about gloves. Look what's happening here. Okay. Now we've got beautiful red sunsetty looking splodging, and it's starting to get larger and fill out the screen. So if you had 2 or 3 of these all going together, you could have 3 different colours. A little bit of stuff fell on the glass there. And then if you project them from different angles on dancers wearing white, could be very interesting, with the 3 different people doing the splodging slightly differently, each person. And that was one way where we created the light shows in those olden days. Okay, 50 years ago. What do we do next to make it a bit darker, do you think?
Dye the paraffin.
Hmm? We put some wax ink. What is it called? Wax.
Candle dye.
Candle colouring. Thank you, Rusty. Blue. Blue. Okay, let's see what happens with the blue. This is interesting. It's interesting for people studying colour theory too. So, these little candle dye bottles, you have to shake them to get them out. There you go. Whoops. Let's go. Oh, sorry, I'll lift this up out of the way and I'll splodge it in there. Oh, boy, look at that. That was a splodge and a half, wasn't it? Wow, look at that. Now it's starting to go a bit wild. We're getting a bit of green coming out of there with the blue and the yellow. Yeah. Okay. Now, Rusty discovered something interesting the other day that I totally forgot what the alcohol was for. It's not just for cleaning your fingers. It's for adding to the vibrancy of the show. What does it do? It makes the paraffin more viscous, more, I got a bit out of control then, more runny, and the splodges more dynamic. So there you go. Now there's some of the splodges don't move, do they? So that means that some of them have actually attached themselves to the glass.
Need a bit more paraffin.
Which might need a bit more paraffin. Thanks, Rusty. I haven't done this for 50 years, you'll have to forgive me. But it's all a matter of experimentation. There's no such thing really as experts, although some Americans who've been doing this all their lives have developed these techniques into the most amazingly beautiful fine art. There's a chap called Bill Ham in San Francisco who does most exquisite light shows using these techniques, and quite rightly he calls them light paintings. Okay, am I getting out of control now? Are we getting interesting? Are we getting boring? What am I doing? Whoops, look at that. So we've got an interesting mixture of some colours that mix, some that won't mix, some totally out of control, and some that won't do a thing. So as a last resort, I'm going to add some more alcohol, so that usually loosens up everything. And look, we've actually almost filled that circular screen now. And by splodging, when you get your thumbs in the right spot, we can do some serious splodging. with the various colours running in and out of each other and actually forming smaller and smaller globules of colour. And that's the start of experimenting with wet shows. Thanks, Rusty. Now we're going to show you a wet show that was done in 1969 and filmed. It was made by a friend of mine, Eddie van der Madden, and by myself. We both had an overhead projector each, and we also had a kaleidoscope projector, and we had a very small laser, one of the first lasers, helium neon, a red laser. And this film was played many times for many different musical styles. So I hope you enjoy it.